emails. Today we're going to be running through how you can significantly increase your team's productivity by using our technology. In this webinar we're going to be focusing on Workfront. Workfront really is more of that end-to-end kind of project resource management process. We're going to run you through a few slides to outline the generic outlook of the creative landscape as we see it today, and some real life kind of daily struggles that individuals and teams are faced with as they kind of get brief ingestion through to tracking time, allocating resource and actually delivering that content out the back end. And then we're going to follow on with a scenario of a workforce that are now utilising the solution to pretty much manage their work better. We are focusing more on the marketing and creative kind of space today, but we're also heavily involved with IT project management as well. So if that kind of sits with you a little bit better than this, then please do let me know, and separately we can discuss and run you through more of a specific IT project management standpoint. So if any of you guys are familiar with the Gartner Magic Quadrant, our solution has been recognised as a leader in that space for the past 5 years. So we do feel that we have, a very capable and probably the right solution to help your team grow and become more successful and significantly increase that productivity throughout your department and company. So from this webinar, we really hope that you can take away 3 key points, and they are to improve processes. So for anything from the incoming brief that you might receive from your external clients that you're working with, or in fact your internal clients, streamlining that process, to allocating the resource and the relevant tasks to the relevant people within your team, and all the way through to approving and distributing that content at the end. Obviously, we want to see better communication and collaboration between your internal staff, your clients and different departments. And we really want to be able to show you value. So at the moment, if you guys are manually entering timesheets or creating spreadsheets for the exec team, we want to show how with using our platform, all of that's integrated into one system, and you'll be able to report and track on this stuff very, very simply. So let's kick off. Creative teams and marketing teams are far more important than they ever have been before. And according to some of our sources, creative directors and creative marketing directors will drive technology spend to over £30 billion by the end of next year, as they really do see the need in investing and implementing technology to streamline processes. So what we mean by stakes are higher really is that the marketing creative, they have a much more strategic role to play in organisations. Businesses are relying on the marketing that they do for their own business to promote their own brand, and also creative teams to build fantastic content for the companies and clients that you're working with. And it really does drive the bottom line results for your own brand and also the clients that you're working with. And we really do live in this fast-paced world today of multi-channel content, and we know that your role might have changed slightly or in fact significantly over the last couple of years. So the stakes are really higher than ever before. So I'm not going to ask you to reply to this, but it's just a question for you guys to think about internally and to yourselves is, if you reflect on your role as a creative person or a marketeer over the past couple of years, do you feel that your role has changed? And do you feel it has become more important or strategic to the company? We're finding that in 95% of cases that is a yes. And really, because the stakes are a lot higher and your increased importance, perhaps your team and yourselves are having to do more work with the same amount of resources. Again, when we've done some studies, more than 3/4 of creative teams are working more than 40 hours per week. And in fact, they're not getting paid overtime for that. So, no one really understands the complexity or the time it takes to create effective kind of collateral, marketing material, creative material and so on. And it really is a misunderstood craft. So the question is how many times do people come up to you from sales department or some other department say, oh, can you quickly just knock this up for me because we need it for an event or a campaign or something like that. They expect it to be done really, really quickly, but in fact, to produce that content takes quite a lot of time. And therefore, with all of these requests coming in, you guys feel perhaps that you're stretched far too thinly and working this overtime just to really get the job done. And the death by deadline, right? The deadlines and the dates to get content done never change. Events don't change, campaigns don't change, and you really have to stick by the deadlines that have been given to you or the company needs to stick to. So everything is driven by that deadline. And everyone really knows about the big deadlines that are coming up, if you're doing a website launch or something like that. But what about all of the last minute work requests that come in that also have urgent deadlines? If the deadlines never change, how do you fit all of this work in and prioritize your work in the right way? And if you think about your own internal businesses, what is the craziest time of the year for you guys? And how do you manage all of that work properly? And also, who's responsible for tracking the work and making sure it's done on time? It's probably one or two people, creative directors, production directors, or someone like that who's kind of running around like a headless chicken, having status meetings, having Excel spreadsheets and all of that sort of stuff to track the work that's being done. And it's really just an old way of working. So the way that we see it, and you're trying to do the right things, but perhaps getting the wrong results, is you have the incoming requests that are coming in, and you're also having the deliverables that you need to deliver on. But there's this whole maze in the middle of the communication, marketing, and meetings that are taking place internally and perhaps with your external client that's coming in from all different ways. So, the work will come into one team via an email or a certain method. They then route that to the creative team via a meeting or an email. That then goes to production to start the work, which could be phone calls, over-the-shoulder conversations. And what you really start to see from that incoming brief, this kind of maze of communication that's taking place before you actually get to the final deliverable. And what we tend to see quite a lot of the time is the first version, or in fact the second version, isn't or doesn't adhere to what was actually requested right at the beginning, because it's all been lost in this maze of communication. So just a few stats for us. Unnecessary meetings are costing over $30 billion in this case a year, with people's time stuck in meetings rather than being creative and so on. 40% of CMOs don't feel that they have the right people or the right tools to get the jobs done. And 60% of workers feel completely overwhelmed with the amount of tasks that they have to complete within a working week or working month, which is quite outstanding when you think about it, that 60% of your workforce may be coming to work every day unhappy and feeling overwhelmed. And following that, it's the mutating workload. 60% of people don't feel that current strategies are effective. People are reporting in old school ways, and they're really crying out for help. Whether they're telling you that or not is a different story. But people are always running behind, and because of that, people are always having to work late to hit deadlines. And the real key factor is holiday guilt. How do you guys typically feel when you head home for the day? Do you get home, open a bottle of wine, and just chill for the rest of the evening? Or do you sit there on your emails because you're waiting for something to come in because it hasn't been done and the deadline's fast approaching? And that's only after work. What about when you go on holiday? Do you really truly switch off? Everyone is entitled to having time off and away from work and so on, but not many people in the creative and marketing space do that because of this kind of work overload that's taking place. So from that, I hope you guys can identify some of the points that we've raised. We're going to run you through a scenario of an internal creative team that are managing requests for a new piece of content. And we're going to talk around some of the pain points before using our solution and how it's really helped streamline their processes moving forward. And we're going to be talking about a combination of the three solutions that we have on offer, which is digital asset management, full project management, and online approval. However, I will kind of make you aware where we're chopping and changing through the solutions, as they can be, one streamlined platform, or if you really identify that only one area is really lacking in your business, they are modular based as well, so we can look at different solutions in different ways. So we're going to meet our team here, which is Swains. And Swains in this case are a retail company. They're in the middle of a launch for a new clothing range. And it's really all hands on deck with the creative team and the marketing team to ensure that all of the marketing is done correctly and shipped out to the community, I suppose, or the world. And also we need to make sure that the signage and everything is done for that store. So we take on the role of Conrad, and in this case, Conrad is the sales guy who is going to request this work. And before using our tool, he wondered who he should send, the creative and marketing requests to, because the creative team was quite big. He didn't really know who to send it to, and going back to that whole maze, it was just getting lost in translation. He was really frustrated because the teams weren't giving feedback quick enough on the assets. The deadlines were approaching. He wasn't getting the feedback quick enough. And also, he was really out of the loop when new collateral was released. So it would sit on someone's local hard drive or on kind of a shared file system somewhere within the business. But no one was really telling him that the content was now ready to be used. So what Conrad does by using Workfront is he opens up his brand portal, where this is storing all of the content that has already been created and already been approved to use across their business. He's really going to look for some advertisement that's already within the platform to see whether he can use any of the content that has already been created for his new campaign. He can, type in a search and narrow down his search results by using, information that's stored against the file. In this scenario, Conrad's not found what he's looking for, and he's actually going to request a new piece of content be built. So we're in the digital asset management world at the moment. However, when we click on the request tab, this is all part of the Workfront project management platform. So if you guys think, if you're working with your internal clients and you get working requests in from other areas of the business, they could use this form, which is fully customizable to work however you need it to and the information that you guys require. Or it could be, in fact, your external client using this form to brief in a job to you guys. So Conrad's going to request the information. He's going to type in the subject, description. He can give it a priority, and as he's in sales, of course, it's always a high priority. He can then add any documentation, add any more custom fields that he needs to. Just make it clear these are fully customizable to what you need. So these ones here might not be relevant for you at all, and they're fully customizable. So then he submits his request, and that is then routed to the relevant person within the team to pick up that request and start kind of on that role. So his job is now made really simple. He knows what information he needs to request new content. He sees where requests will be done because he's fully notified throughout the system, as we'll come on to in a bit. And he's collaborating directly with the marketing team. Not that he really knows it because he's just sending a request, but he's collaborating with them to make sure all of the information is there and therefore right first time. So hopefully you guys can see straight away some benefits of streamlining that incoming request process. So we take on the role now of Joan, and Joan's the production manager, also known as project manager, traffic coordinator, depends on kind of what she's doing at the time. She plays a critical role of getting the work over to the creative team and setting the appropriate priorities of getting things complete. So again, before using Workfront, she used to track projects and statuses in outdated spreadsheets. Spent hours a day chasing members of the team via emails and instant messaging apps and all that sort of stuff. And because she wasn't getting the communication back, she was really worrying about the deadlines fast approaching. So Joan, using our platform, as you can see, she logs in and sees a completely different interface from what Conrad saw with the brand portal. And she's information driven. So she's constructed her dashboard to group all of her projects together so she can quickly see completion dates, the progress of the projects, if there was budgets allocated and what's the cost of the project so far, and anything else that's really important to her. She's also got a Ranger specific tab because we're working on the Ranger brand at the moment, so it's obviously quite high priority. And again, she can see all of the projects within that specific Ranger campaign and track all of the work that's specifically being done within that kind of project. She can view monitoring, so this allows her to stay on top of things and be proactive with projects rather than reactive. So again, without using a tool, if deadlines are approaching and half the work hasn't been done, you've got to spend time in meetings, chase people in emails, use your spreadsheets to update and so on. And with Workfront, it tells you automatically if there are projects at risk and there are any issues with that, and if projects are actually over deadlines and why. So it's quite a simple tool, but it's also very powerful. And it allows people, kind of in Joan's scenario, to focus exactly what she needs to focus on and allow the other bits to continue on their path. And she's also got a new request tab. So as you can see up here, we've got the new request that Conrad sent via his portal site, and Joan can see this new request that's come in from Conrad. So what Joan can do is she can click on that request, and she's going to have a look at the information provided from the form just to make sure that she understands everything about that request that he's making. And go into more information, she can see the due date and so on and so on. And at that point, she's going to have a look at the calendar. So she can see exactly what her team are working on now, what days are already committed to with other projects, and see whether there is actually time within the team to get the projects done on the deadline that Conrad has asked for. So she can see that we've got this week free, and she feels confident that she can commit to Conrad's request date. So at this point, what Joan does, she's going to go back to that request, and she's going to just notify Conrad through the system that we're going to get working on this straight away with the creative team. So this is a really nice tool. We're keeping everything in one system, all of the communications happening from one platform, and Conrad now knows that it's been picked up by the production creative and they're going to start working on his request. So once she's updated that, she then has to then create the project. Now we can set up multiple project templates depending on, if you have the same project that goes through your business quite often. Project template is a really good way to save a lot of time when creating new tasks and so on. You also have the option to create new projects, so new tasks, new resources and so on. But in this instance, we're going to use a project template. We can type in any more information around that project template that we need to. And what you'll now notice is that we've pre-established tasks and assignments by role for each of the tasks and predecessing tasks that we have within the platform. She can also click on Gantt charts and see a breakdown of assignments in a Gantt chart view, as some people like to use that. However, in this case, we're not going to use the Gantt chart. We're just going to go back to our list view here. And we notice at the moment that the deadline, because it was a project template, is set to the 5th of Feb. The deadline is actually the 12th. So we can come in and change and edit any of the project tasks that have already been set within our template to make it more relevant to this specific project. And we can click on the 12th. And when we save that, you'll notice that all of the start dates and due dates have actually automatically changed as well. So the end date is obviously always the driver because, as we mentioned, deadlines never change. And then all of the predecessing tasks above will change to factor in the planned hours, duration, days, and so on against this entire project. So once she's done that, she's then going to click on the first task in a list and see all of the child tasks as well here. And then we can see that the assignment is currently done by department. So now we really need to assign each of the tasks to an individual user. And there are a couple of ways within Workfront that we can do this. The first one is to really just click on the assignment, and Workfront will then give you a few recommendations of people to work on that specific task. And that will kind of grow its intelligence over time on who you've used in previous projects, who gets things done the quickest, who's got most time in their diary for that week, and so on. So it's a really clever tool to allocate resource to a specific person. So she can click on that and click on Bert straight away, and then that has then assigned that task to Bert. And Bert will now in the back end receive a notification to let him know that he has been assigned a task to work on. And we'll come back to that kind of process of how they see it later on in the demo. Another way of doing it is by clicking on the staffing tab. And again, this is a really useful tool to get an outline of your entire team, their working hours so far, and in fact, if they've been over allocated any working hours as well. So we're basing this on a 40-hour week. So you can see a lot of people kind of, have a lot of time to spare, but Sal in particular has been over allocated resource. So what we could do is obviously, at this point, if we can then reallocate work from Sal to someone else in the same kind of job role to give Sal, some breathing space and not have to work any overtime and so on. And this is also a really good tool to see if you get a lot of reds a lot of the time, it might be time for you guys to staff up a little bit. Or if you're always at 16 hours out of 40 hours, it might be time to staff down a little bit. So it gives you a really good indicator on each of your team members' working week. What we're doing in this scenario is obviously we want to assign some tasks to our relevant project for this store signage. And what we can do is we can click on the task in this bottom window here, and it will then automatically highlight in green who is the relevant person to complete that task based on, again, their working week, allocate resource and all of that sort of stuff. And we can simply drag and drop that task to that person, and again, that person will be notified that they have been assigned a new task. So what we're seeing is Joan can now make role-based assignments depending on availability, which really does drive efficiencies within the organisation and making sure that everyone is working as efficiently as possible within all of the projects that are going on across your business. So again, hopefully you guys can see that there's a real benefit there of using a tool like this rather than status meetings, instant message, email, and so on. So what we've now seen is Joan is able to specifically assign tasks that have been made. Bert has been given tasks for copy production, and he'll receive working requests, as we mentioned, for his portion of the project. So Joan will leave some of the other assignments up to the creative director to make, because he's more suited to some of the other elements within this project. So now with Joan using the platform, she can see all of the incoming requests that are being made in one place. They're not coming in from all different angles, so there's no confusion. Receive status updates from team members all of the time because everything is working through one platform. And she's really now confident in her ability to be able to meet deadlines that have been set, because she can see all of the status updates for each project and each person individually. We're now going to move on to the creative director and also the graphic designer. So again, before using Workfront, the creative director wondered what his team was working on, didn't really have visibility of that, therefore would have loads of status meetings and spend more time in them than actually being creative himself, but also struggled to align priorities depending on deadlines and so on, because it was all kind of paper driven at the moment. And Rick, as the graphic designer, used to get bombarded with requests, ad hoc requests that were coming in via all these different channels, wasted a lot of time on revisions because the working brief at the beginning might get misconstrued while it's going through its process, and therefore Rick has delivered something but it's not quite right, and having to waste time building second, third, fourth revisions, and really does learn about deadlines at last minute in the status meetings, or if Joan's come over to his desk or something like that. So we take on the role of David first of all. He logs into his Workfront system, and again you can see he's got a different view to Joan when he logs in, and he immediately sees value because he's getting visibility on all of the work that his team are working on. He can see any of the updates that are being made on each individual project, and he can use the tabs along the top to see what's being worked on and any team requests that come in. So as he clicks on the Working On tab, he gets a different calendar view to what we've seen before, and he can see all of the individual users along here and where they've got resource allocated, and he can also see any unassigned working items that are sitting within the platform. And again, this is for our scenario of this store signage, and we can see that this is an unallocated task. So what David can do is he can click on that task, see the due date, priority, and all of that sort of stuff, and he can then simply give that or allocate that task to a member of his team. We'll send it to Rick. That's now moved from the unallocated work items, and now that request has been moved to Rick's calendar and his workload is updated accordingly. So we take on the role of Rick, again sees a different view, and what he can see is his kind of to-do list that day. So there's no more keeping track of what you need to do in your Outlook calendar or your iCal calendar, keeping an Excel spreadsheet of your own to-do list or a diary entry manually. It's all within the platform for them to see what they need to work on. So this would be Rick's view, and in our scenario that would also be Bert's view as well with the copywriter. So you can see all of his working requests. This is the assignment that David has just given Rick to work on. So Rick could go in, he could look at any of that information that he needs to work on, see the deadlines again, and he can just simply click that he's working on it. So again, that will then process notifications back to David and perhaps Joan to say that Rick's picked this up and he's working on that. And that is now sitting in his Working On tab, and it's moved to the top of the list because it's the highest priority that was being set by Conrad and Joan. So there's no more need to manually understand what the priorities are, because someone else is doing that for them, and they can just use this as their to-do list working from top to bottom. So since it's the create layout and it's highest priority, Rick's going to go in to work on that straight away. So he can see all of the details, and then he can open up his InDesign to start designing that work. Now, depending on the task at hand, it might not be InDesign, it might be Illustrator or Photoshop, but any of the kind of Adobe Creative Cloud tools have our kind of plugins within them to streamline that process. If you're not working in one of these and it's more Word documents or PowerPoints or whatever format it might be, there is no plugins for that, but obviously you would then use the system to upload that file into the project, which we'll come on to in a little bit. So Rick can use the plugins to browse the digital asset management system, find any relevant imagery that he wants to use based on the project information. He can simply drag and drop that file into his InDesign. He can also create the text box with information and so on and so on. So he's pretty much completed his poster, and he's going to now use the Workfront plugin to save that file back into the project and specifically that task that he needs to upload it to. So he now no longer needs to save this to his desktop, and therefore you've got a version on your desktop, a version on the file system and so on. It's all being streamlined and only one version is being used as you go through this process. So as Rick goes back to his Workfront interface, he can see that that file has now been uploaded, and he can now say that he's done. So that task has now been complete for him. So from Rick's point of view, that would then remove out of his working on list, because obviously he's marked that as complete. David would be notified in this instance that Rick has said he's completed that work. And now David will come back into the system and go to his approvals tab to see the work that Rick has been working on. So David can come into that, he can drill down to the Documents tab, and he can see that file there. So what David needs to do is he needs to pull up that digital proof. David can zoom into the file, he can rotate the file, measure certain elements of the file and so on. And if this was a multiple page document, kind of all of the pages would appear on the left hand side here that we could just click through. This also works, we're showing it in a PDF and InDesign format now, but there are over 150 file format types supported, including video, audio, HTML5 animation, websites and so on. In this case, David is going to create some comments. He's going to use his markup tools up here. And as we can see, he wants to remove the text box to make the close pop, and he's going to save that down. That's the only comment he wants to make, so then he clicks out of that proof, and then he rejects that file. So that will then send a note back to Rick to say that that file's been rejected, and Rick can then come in, and he can pull up the asset by clicking on the proof as well, and he can easily see that not only David has made a comment about the banner, but also there have been 3 other comments made. There's been a reply to David's comment, as we can see here. We've got Joan who's made a comment and Karen who's made a comment. So Rick can quickly click through all of the comments that were made and also any replies to them comments. So what we're doing is we're collaborating in real time within one platform. So going back to whole PDF formatting and sending PDFs out to people to put sticky notes on and send it back. If David had wrote a comment on a PDF and sent it back to Rick, Joan wouldn't have seen what that comment was, and she would have perhaps made her own comment and sent that separately back to Rick, and therefore he would have had conflicting comments, different information and so on. So using our platform, David writes a comment, Joan sees it, she can reply to it, they can agree or disagree and make that decision within the one platform, so that when Rick sees it and has to make his changes, he's specifically seeing what needs to be done straight away rather than having any confusion. So Rick can then toggle through the comments, and you can see that certain things want to be changed on that file, and he can close that down. He can open up his InDesign via the plugin and so on and make the changes, and then he can either use the plugin to re-upload the file, or again in this scenario I'm showing you how you can just drag and upload files directly into the platform if it's not an Adobe product, if it's Word or PowerPoint as I mentioned. And we can upload that file into the platform, and then he simply clicks that he's done his job again. So we take on the role of David for the last time, and he gets notified that the new version has been uploaded. He clicks on the new proof, and he can see that the new version with all the requests have been made. But what he really wants to do, he wants to do a side-by-side comparison of the versions as well. And this doesn't have to be side-by-side, you could also do it as an overlay and then swipe between version 1 and version 2. But he can see that all of the kind of comments were here, and then all of the changes have been made on his version 2. He could make new comments on version 2 if it still wasn't quite right, but he can close that down, and in this case, he's going to approve that file. So hopefully within that kind of whole online approval and collaboration bit, you guys can see a real benefit of using an online kind of centralized tool rather than perhaps the traditional ways that you're working at the moment of printing files out or sending PDFs. So once it's been approved, it's now within the task list of the project management tool to send that file to the digital asset management site. So again, we're coming out of the Workfront piece now and we're going into the digital asset management. As I mentioned, the digital asset management is simply an option. If you have your own digital asset management system, then we could integrate into that. Or, if you simply don't want a digital asset management system, obviously the task could be to download that file and share it out with people in another way. But in this case, we're going to send it to the Workfront DAM. We're going to find the folder structure that we want to put it into, and then we're going to save that file. And what you'll notice here, we just get this little line icon here, which just indicates to us that that document has been moved to the DAM system. So we can simply click on that, which will then take us to that file which resides in the digital asset management. And in this case, we can see some metadata against that file that's automatically been created as it runs through the Workfront project. Obviously, you can add your own metadata values in as well. And this just goes back to the point at the beginning where Conrad was logging into his brand portal and searching for files that he wants to use. That's where metadata becomes really important, right? So if you're creating a whole project around a spring campaign, and then a year later Conrad wants to find that information, if it's tagged with that relevant metadata, he can simply find that really quick, really easy, and use it time and time again. So that saves you a lot of time and effort in reproducing work that's already been created, and also having multiple versions of the same file in different locations. I know that was a bit long-winded, but hopefully you guys now see from using Workfront, David can see everything that his team is doing in one place. He can manage the team assignments with ease. There's no status meetings or anything like that, and therefore he can focus more of his time on being creative. And for Rick, very simple, he can maintain a clear list of priorities, so he's not having to manage them himself, they're getting managed for him, and he just works on his working on list. He gets recognition for his work because the brief has stayed the same throughout, and it's all the communications in one system. He's not spending time on versions 3, 4 and 5. He has time to meet his deadlines because he doesn't have to do anything other than be creative. If we just take the scenario back to Conrad now, David's finished the review and approval, Jones created the lightbox, and the posters are now sent to Conrad, ready for Conrad to send off, in this case to the printer, but this could be to the website or to an e-newsletter or whatever it may be. So Conrad just shares the file, he enters the email address or addresses that he wants to share it with. It could be a link, it could be an email download, it could be an FTP link. And you can do a number of things here, like expire the links, transcode files into different file formats, change the resolution, crop the images and so on. And he's going to send that link to the printer in that instance. So Conrad now has everything he needs in one place. He knows that the files that are on the digital asset management system have gone through that project management process and are in fact approved to be used. And now we're just going to take on the last role of Karen. And we mentioned at the beginning our 3 steps. So improve processes, which I hope you've seen, collaboration and communication, which again I hope you've seen. And now we're on to show the value of the audits and reports. So Karen, as the VP, and reporting to the execs, used to struggle to justify all of this resource because no one was tracking their time properly. All these revisions were going on and people were starting to get a little bit annoyed of how much money they were spending on reworking. Scrambled to connect with the daily work and the strategic initiatives. So again, going back to where is resource too high, where is it too low, and all of that sort of stuff. And just overall felt that a department's contribution was undervalued. So again, these reports are fully customizable. We're just showing you a few examples here, and you can really drill down any information and build out any report that you want within Workfront. I believe there's around 190 different reports and different mechanisms that you can pull in depending on what you want to search on. So she's easily being able to access reports like this one, which shows what a team have been able to accomplish in a variety of different market channels. So this could be, we can see that this is for her brand as such within the organisation, and then where they've achieved a lot of projects within each different sector. So print, radio, tele, web, and so on. She can go to the Ranger launch specifically, and she can see pretty much what Jones saw, which was being able to track the progress, the budgets, the plan changes, plan complete dates, and so on. She can go to calendars, and again, this calendar looks a little bit different to David's. She can see just how busy the team are. Are they being overworked? Are things getting done on time? Where is most of the work coming from? Who's working on most of the projects? And so on and so on. Really nice, powerful interface. And then just as a marketing or creative overview, she can see where budgets are being spent in different areas, project conditions, so whether most of the projects are on time, whether there's some at risk of going over deadline, whether some are in fact over deadline. And then optimizations. So again, this is just really showing where the peaks are within their kind of creative month or year, and whether that they should staff up at them times rather than spending loads of money on freelancers or external agencies. So it allows you to build strategic reports throughout the system based on the work that's going through the organisation using Workfront. So again, just for Karen, she can now accurately forecast costs and benefits. She can really get the reports and updates that she loves, but also that her execs like to see. And she can communicate the value of the teams with simply a click of a button. So, guys, I hope from that scenario we touched on a few pain points that you might be experiencing yourselves and can see, the benefits that we mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, which were improved processes, better communication and collaboration, and really show the value. As I mentioned, we really did focus on creative today. There's also a really good ROI benefit around implementing this for IT project management as well. So if you do want to see something around that, please do let me know. But thank you very much for your time, and hopefully catch up with you soon.